So, how does one go from this to this? Redemption, love, change. These are the three core components that made it possible for Blitz to become the man who he is today. Ever since his childhood, he dreamed of being the most well-known imp throughout all of Hell. Blitz did eventually manage to reach that point, but how did he accomplish such an impossible feat? After all, life dealt him a pretty bad hand during his upbringing, so he had no choice but to dream bigger than anyone else and build himself up from being a nobody into somebody worthy of admiration. Even from a young age, he had to work hard to earn his keep, while having to deal with a neglectful scumbag of an alcoholic father who couldn't care less about the well-being of his own son. Blitz didn't have much to his name, but that didn't stop him from living his life to the fullest. His bestie Fizz was always by his side, and the rest of his family loved him dearly. They all gave him a reason to aspire for a better future, a future where they could all live in prosperity. A future where they wouldn't be looked down upon just for being imps. As long as they were in his life, nothing was going to stop him from reaching that end goal. Unfortunately though, all that hope and happiness came crashing down when a devastating accident stole everything that he'd ever known up to that point. By losing his family, he lost his reason to be. The darkness slowly took over, as he blamed himself for everything that happened on that tragic day. That heaviness made him sink deeper and deeper in the abyss, to the blackest depths of his soul. What he needed more than anything was a source of light to guide him back to the surface again. He rejected his roots as an entertainer who's in the spotlight and embraced the shadows instead, by becoming a top-tier assassin unlike any others in Hell. It was his way of taking out his anger at the unjust world that he was stuck in. But as the years passed by, he felt increasingly imprisoned by Hell's rigid set of values, especially when it came to his own kind. Breaking down those oppressive walls wasn't a feasible option quite yet, so as an alternative solution, Blitz decided to break out of the system by setting his sights on the human world instead. His escapist tendencies didn't end there though, as he also found himself in a hopeless pursuit to run away from the many wounds of his past. The more Blitz tried to leave Blitzo behind, the more he got reminded of the man that he used to be, which deeply unsettled him. He was too scared to admit that perhaps he wasn't all that different from his past self after all. All the rage that he felt towards the world was actually directed at himself, and it blinded him from seeing the reality of his current situation. The truth is, Blitz was on the right path all along, as he instinctively knew what was lacking from his life and how to fill the void that he felt inside. But his self-destructive tendencies, which stemmed from his intense self-hatred, made him go down the wrong path more times than he could count. His old scars kept haunting him again and again. Whenever he was faced with those unavoidable parts from his past, he was reminded of all the phantoms that he left behind. The guilt that he felt from losing it all in the fire traumatized him to the core, which made him enter a never-ending cycle where he pushed away anyone who got too close to his heart. Those painful memories truly made him believe that he didn't deserve genuine connections anymore, since he'd just burn everything to the ground all over again. As a self-protective coping mechanism, he put on an abrasive, snarky mask whenever he felt threatened by anyone who genuinely wanted to be a part of his life. Thankfully though, Moxie could see through this facade and stopped Blitz before it was too late again. In the mind-bonding experience they both had in the Truth Seekers episode, inside of Moxie's hallucination, it can be noticed how Blitz's forehead tattoo takes the shape of a broken heart. Moxie understands how his boss really feels beyond the mask, and he knows just how much Blitz truly needs these types of connections in his life. In this make it or break it situation, Blitz thankfully made the right choice. Rather than push Moxie away once and for all, he did the exact opposite, by letting Mox know how much he values him and their friendship. This allowed Blitz to reflect on everything that he's gained up to this point. He could no longer afford to fixate on what's been lost, especially when his present life gave him so many precious things that were truly worth protecting. This perspective shift made him realize that it's okay to forgive himself for all the things that were outside of his control, but it also inspired him to have better control of his own actions, which led him on a path of self-redemption where he made things right with the ones who he wronged along the way. This inner redemption also allowed him to slowly drop the defensive walls that surrounded his heart. He understood at last that everyone who stuck around didn't do it on accident. They stayed by his side because they truly appreciated him and his presence. If his found family loved him this much, maybe it was finally okay to start embracing himself, rather than self-loathing straight into an early grave. At the end of the day, Blitz's actions towards the ones who he cherishes the most could only come from a place of genuine love and understanding. He let Luna know that she's perfect just the way she is, and made it very loud and clear that she's never going to be seen as undesirable or unwanted ever again. He reassured Moxie that he can start a new life with his natural talents and forget about his troubled past. He told Millie that there's so much more to her brilliance than just her muscles and reminded her that no dream is too big in hell. After all, Blitz did name his business IMP to empower fellow imps out there. He reminded Fizz that he deserves so much better than a toxic boss like Mammon, and more importantly, that he can always count on him as a friend. He low-key lets Stolas know that actually, it's okay to be gay, and that he doesn't deserve to be a glorified punching bag due to his complicated family affairs. But that's a story for another day. Or video. Ultimately, Blitz gave them all a place of belonging and undeniably changed their lives for the better. And speaking of changes, Hell's history was about to be changed forever thanks to his upcoming actions. The higher-ups of Hell tried to make an example out of Blitz for daring to step out of line as a so-called lesser demon, but it backfired to a spectacular degree. At first, they tried to silence him, but it only amplified his message that much louder. His unfair trial perfectly showcased the painful oppression that the lower classes of Hell have had to endure for far too long. Blitz very much embodies the struggles of having an unfair life thrown your way, only to be further punished by your makers for simply trying to rise above where you were born. His pending demise ended up empowering fellow Hellborns, as his attitude screamed loud and clear that he wouldn't allow himself to be belittled just because he's an imp who got thrown into an unjust trial. Blitz's resolve was forcefully broadcast for all of Hell to see, and for that brief moment of silence, Demonkind was on his side, rooting for him to somehow come out on top, against all odds. He was prepared to die with a smile on his face, knowing that at the very least, he managed to save his loved ones when it mattered the most. In his eyes, it was only fair that he'd return the favor as his found family saved him more times than he could count. If it weren't for them, he would have been engulfed by his darkest thoughts long ago. Blitz won't let anyone diminish the precious light from the ones who finally shined some much-needed hope back into his life. Those feelings didn't go unanswered though, as Stolas felt the same way, which ultimately saved Blitz and proved to everyone in Hell that hope, just like love, can be born from the unlikeliest of places. This whole experience made Blitz realize one crucial thing about himself and his newfound role as a figure of hope for other Hellborns. This time, it was his turn to shine rays of hope on the ones who need it the most. For starters, his boyfriend has a lot of healing to do, but Blitz is more than ready to give him all the love that's required for a full recovery. After all, they both need to be there for each other as they prepare for a challenging quest to repair family ties that may be gone for good. This is just a starting point of our hero's upcoming journey to make Hell into a better place, and I, for one, am looking forward to seeing where his continued growth takes him next.